What's up, everybody? Midjourney Fast Hours podcast. We're back. So last time we talked a lot about mood boards, describe, all that good stuff. Today, I think we're going to dive a little bit further into mood boards. We're going to talk some of the updates that Midjourney's got coming up with V7, a couple weeks away there. But there's some really interesting anecdotes that were mentioned on office hours as it relates to their future plans, optimism around video, and things like that. So we're going to get into all that. I think just in general with mood boards, kind of addicting, man.
Dude, it's like it's one thing feeds the next. Like I'm like, oh, let me bash some mood boards together. And then I get something. I'm like, well, let me create a mood board out of that. And then like before you know it, I've created like 6 more. And I'm like, all right, I gotta stop.
It feels like we're getting back to like the older Midjourney models where it was like less about creating for an exact thing sometimes and more just like having fun with raw materials, you know?
Yeah. Because I now take some of the stuff that I produce and try to run it through like my GPTs to like reverse engineer it to figure it out. And then I rerun those prompts. They come nowhere close. So it's just, you can't even text prompt for this stuff. It just doesn't make sense. So it's
we're
like
in wild land now.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this. We were just saying, because is weird even a necessary parameter anymore? Because now you can just break into these weird levels that I don't even know that weird could tap into now with personalization, mood boards, smashing mood boards, SREF code, like doesn't even matter.
It's interesting because I've been, like when I started doing mood boards, I was like, I wanted this really tight aesthetic. Like I was trying to create an SREF, I was trying to create an SREF code. And then I'm like, well, it doesn't work for everything because it's, it takes a lot of time to sort of like build the database to that. I'm like, well, what if I go more broad? So it's kind of like this sort of mashed up aesthetic. And then it's like, oh, that's cool. But then it's also like, well, maybe I just want certain elements that I want to mix and match. So then you go back to creating like these little tiny small things. For example, I created one the other day that was just like a film negative style. I would put like 5 images in it, but it adds like a really nice sort of effect to, when you stack it with something else. So like if I'll stack it with something that's really super creative and colorful and like have this like film negative sort of mood board that I attach to it, it's a nice little like blend.
Oh, so maybe even the idea that not every mood board needs to carry the same amount of burden.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
One could be a little bit more of a, hey, this is a nice little seasoning to put on your little bland chicken. And you can stack this with one of these other mood boards that provides a little bit more like the tastiness and appetizing aspect. Yeah.
Because I think, like I saw some of yours, right? Like you have like a chrome one, right? Like that's to me, that's like a very useful, like universal one to just like plug in with something else. So like, I'm thinking like would chrome and like black and white really mix well, or would chrome and, something like my film negative work really well together, right? Where you're starting to think of, oh, we can go really big with these ideas and like super broad sort of like, like mood boards that kind of go a million different ways. We can go like really tight, or we can go like really micro. And I'm liking this really micro thing. I don't know why. I just feel like it's fun to sort of like, because like you get to that certain point where you're down a rabbit hole with creating. It's like, oh, okay, like this is working. This is cool. Let me try like one extra thing. It's always like the one extra. But what happens if I multi-prompt this instead of, and then it's like, oh shit, now I have these extra mood boards that dump in here. Because sometimes you get to that point where it's like, oh, it was so good, but I just want one little thing. Like I was realizing the other day that I was getting these really crazy images that I wanted, but they were so like overdone in terms of like texture. And then I applied like my little iPhone mood board to it, and it like brought it right back down to reality, like exactly where I wanted it to be.
See, there we go.
So
there we go.
Like, to me, it's like all these little, if you have ADD, it's the worst thing ever. You just keep plugging stuff in.
True. Now, you guys, we mentioned this before. We'll bring it up again because we're almost there.
Yeah.
We're almost there. We are putting together a whole mood board doc, right, of our premium style mood boards. These are, again, high quality, tested, things we've been playing around with for weeks. And that worked. Yeah. And I think, we've combined our efforts here and really put these together. So I think one thing that we can do, and this is like just a little preview of what you can expect if you were to grab this when we release it. So I think we're going to release this in the next couple days here. We're just putting the final touches on it. But we could even play around with these today, right? Like if we want to just kind of show you guys how these work to give you some inspiration there, whether you want these ones or you're creating your own, I think it's still helpful to kind of see how somebody else may be approaching this in terms of prompting on top of it, the type of results that we're looking for, how we might, interpret it to see if we need to make any tweaks and so forth. But we're getting very close here. You can see I've got 6 in here. Rory's got his. I think he's got 8 here. Then we've also got some bonuses we're just throwing in, right? Like, so I think there's like another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in all, we're talking, 24, 26 mood boards that you get access to that you don't have to spend time on. So if these type of vibes, which I think there's probably something in here for everyone, probably going to save you a ton of time if you want to do it yourself. But I think this has probably been one of the more fun things we've played with Midjourney since style codes?
Yeah,
maybe?
probably. Yeah, that or SREF, or when they introduced
God, SREF was so big, dude.
Yeah, SREF was insane. That was a lot of fun.
You know what? While we're talking about that, I've been doing a lot of trainings. I know you do workshops too. It surprises me how many people don't know about the weighting of the references.
Yeah.
So they know that there's like an image or a style thing, and they have a general idea how it works, but they don't really know to weight it.
Yeah.
And most of them don't know about permutations, right? Like,
nope.
And so like you start to factor that in and give that to somebody. Every time I love seeing them because they're just like, oh, it's like, yeah, you could be running this with permutations, speed up your workflow. Plus you can have more control over exactly how much is being applied. It's a no-brainer, right? Like, so it's always surprising, like, hear the things that people don't know yet, even though we kind of assume that they might.
It is interesting because I send it ahead of time now and on these little trainings that I do. I'm like, and I ask specifically about SREF and style weighting just to get the idea to see how far I have to go down, that hole when I'm explaining it. It's a big portion because it's like, if you don't know SREF, like, I don't know, you cut your leg off at the knee, you're not going to be able to use it the same way. But it's like, do you know what SREF is? How comfortable are you with it? Do you know how to weight it? And most of the time, if it's like, I'm super comfortable, and then I get to the, I don't know how to weight it, I'm like, okay, sure. Like, then you don't really know because you're not able to control it. So it's very weird, some of these things. But what I remembered to play with yesterday? Been a while. Style version. So.
Oh, did you?
Dude, SV1 still produces bangers when I put it back on there. Oh, yeah.
For whatever reason, I haven't run anything on those in a minute. And by minute, I mean maybe a year.
Yeah. I just remember that you could do it because I was adding. So I was, if you guys want to hear the weirdness that was going on, I was multi-prompting in the prompt. I had about 6 mood boards, 4 profile codes, 2 SREF images, and then I'd use style version on top of that to try and figure out if there would be a significant difference. It was a pretty big one.
You're giving me anxiety just thinking about it.
Dude, I know. I was like, wait, what happens if I do this? Wait, what happens if I do this?
ADHD. Dude, I'm pretty sure this is making my ADHD worse, just going through this process.
I don't help. I know that.
Because it's like, dude, when you get down that rabbit hole and it's just like, dude, an hour, 2 hours disappear. And it's like, what have I even been doing? I don't even know if I did anything productive other than just following wherever this takes me.
It's also when you find those banger prompts that are like super broad and like very, like, not like I'm writing like a paragraph, like I'm writing, 2D math equation in 4-dimensional space. And then like, it's so random, the output. And you're like, oh, that's really cool. Let me try it with this. Bang. Okay. Whoa. All right. So that's how I lose 2 hours at night when I should be in bed.
We've talked about this before, but like, if you're an artist that does digital art, that's why I find it so fascinating and confusing how you can stay within one particular lane so strictly, and this is your art, right?
Yeah.
Because, dude, you unlock something like that and you're just like, I had no idea I'm into this stuff, but I like this deserves exploration, right?
Yeah.
And this deserves, eyeballs other than just mine, right? It's just like, why box yourself in? I can't even tell you how many different avenues I've gone down of both things that are very predictable that I'd like and then also unpredictable that I'd like. And it's just like, if I'm trying to share my work, which I've been asked to share my work too, it's like, how do you how do you box
impossible.
those things down, right? Because when you create as many images as we do, and then you're also trying to say what images really define my style, because
Yeah.
art's beautiful, right? Like there's just so many interpretations. I don't know how people stay in a box. To me, that's boring. Like I could go down that route for a while, and I have, and then what? And then what? Like there's no more joy, right?
No
Like it's
evolution. It's just iteration of the same thing. It's not a bad thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, right? Like some photographers have a very specific style. They do the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's still
100%,
really good,
100%.
you
I
know?
just don't get it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not me. It's not me.
No, like I even, like the things that, like the happy accidents, which I like, where I'll like, I'll be getting the prompt bar and hit up to get the last prompt, and I'm, attaching a style. Like I did this the other day where
Yo, let's go
I
in. Share your
yeah,
screen. Let's just get in.
I basically did the wrong. I attached the SRF image to the wrong prompt that I wasn't trying to do, and it came up with
And
something
you got
like
something
sick.
good?
And I was like,
Ah,
all right,
yeah.
let's run with this now. But
Yeah.
this stuff is really fun. Like I just I have no idea sort of where everything's gonna go every time I do it. But again, like this is his randomly last night just doing liquid infusion of color, just seeing where that goes with like 7 mood boards attached to it. And again, like I'm not in love with some of this stuff.
Leave that up for a second. I'm gonna run this same prompt, and like let's just make this sort of like an interactive episode here. But like
All right, cool.
I'll take this stuff and maybe we just or we could even use rooms.
We could use rooms.
Rooms, yeah.
Look at that.
Do people still use rooms? Maybe us. But like this would be a perfect example. But I'm gonna take that. Let me just take this. I'll run it with Moodboards too, and we can just kind of see where some of the stuff takes us. But
yeah, because this is, the one thing that I like to do is just like these Japanese movie posters that I've been running with like so many different variations of everything, just to try and find like, again, how is it all affected and interweaved?
yeah.
And like how can this all
interwoven
work, interwoven. Wow. Look at us.
Don't you come on, man.
Because yeah, like when I use just like the standard profile here, right? Like cool. Like that's just the profile that's built on it.
Pretty awesome.
But then when when you start going, like let's go.
Show me that prompt again that you had up for a second. I'm gonna run that while you're looking at these two.
The liquid infusion of color.
Intricate details. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And you're running this in a 3/4.
Running it in a 3/4. If you want to
get you bastard, like you always do. And let's just do style 600. Okay, I'm gonna run this with some Moodboards. Keep going, sir.
Yeah, because I'm saying like every once in a while when you run these with these mood boards, it's like, oh, let's start with the mood board, then let's add another one, see how it looks. Let's add another one, see how it looks. Like I was doing it with this prompt too, this 2-dimensional text equation in 4-dimensional space, right? And you're getting really sort of intricate, weird things, but I'm not necessarily knowing what I'm going to get with this. I'm just seeing how crazy Midjourney can get, which in some of these cases, it's, pretty crazy, which is where it's like layering the text, especially here in like the mid-ground of everything with depth behind it, like as if it's, built into the scene. So like that's what I was trying to do the other day. Like, how can I sort of weave in more 4-dimensional effect to this image? But it's like, let's get this prompt going. And then that's the problem was when this prompt starts to go, like, where does it go from here? Because like mood board, profile, multi-prompt, whatever. Right? Because I might take this and be like, oh, this is sick. Let's try, this. And I love how the text here, to me, and maybe I don't love this image that much, but I love how you can see that there's text obviously forward facing. There's text over here facing to the side. It's like pushing out from inside of a cube. And then there's depth behind the cube, like it is just floating in space. So it's really crazy. There might be like, okay, cinematic, unclear physics. Let's do I spelled dimensions wrong. Maybe that's why. Like let's give this a multi-prompt. Let's do this at like 1.3 details. Let's change this profile back down to select a couple P codes here. Maybe we'll start with this. We'll add some of this. We'll add some of this, and add a little bit of this. All right, so now I got just like 7 things selected. This is where it gets, you go down the rabbit hole. And it's like, okay, where the hell does this even go? Because I don't know, but I know
I mean, at
typically.
some point, I mean, I know it's an infinite number technically, but how much closer do we get to that infinite number if there is a number with unlocking this? Because
Uh,
now you've got like, all right, this is I don't know if this is going to come out the right way, but there are images that are very straightforward. There are all types of ideas for images that make a lot of sense.
yeah,
There are art inspired images, some of which can make sense, some of which are totally unlogical but are beautiful. Now we're getting into this space, right, where it's just like consolidating so many years of what normally would have been a trajectory of the technology that we had, where we would have never gotten here like in 100 years if technology stayed the same. Now we're unlocking so many of these different corners of what's possible with images. Like,
it's
what
weird,
is
man.
happening? I don't
I
I
don't
don't
know
even it's hard to even comprehend this.
because I don't get it. Because I'm saying like, oh, you know what? I might not like this. This is the problem, right? Maybe it's like, oh, I want more of this. Oh, maybe I should change some of the, the profile here to give it a little bit more. Let's give it this. Let's take out this. Let's maybe add some of this iPhone, and then, let's get rid of these
When you're using
profile
the mood
codes.
boards, you generally, I think we've talked about this before, but are you generally still leaving your global profile on top and you're
Yeah,
stacking? Yeah. Yeah.
because most of the time, what else is interesting too, which you can do here, is with your global profile, you can then also weight that. I've noticed you can weight your global profiles versus the mood boards too. So you get a little bit different of a result, just
Yep.
like a little bit heavier on the global profile and personalization versus the mood boards. So something to consider because there's, again, as we said, you can go 1 million different directions with this kind of stuff and it's never ending.
Never ending.
And like this one here, again, this one's pulling more of my personalization code in versus this. Like this one actually has a really cool effect to me. Like the way that that's shot through seemingly like a window. And then you see how like the layers of depth keep going back. I'm not saying this is like a great image or not, but this is where I'd start to find like, oh, okay, this is more interesting, right? Like maybe I don't like how this is all jacked up here in terms of whatever creativity is doing, but we have like a window into another dimension. And I'm
Yes.
like, all right, I know it's kind of maybe potentially screwing this up here, right? So maybe it's like take this out. Maybe I take one of these other ones out. Let's take this. Let's take this out,
Just
and
now,
then
just for reference, right? You're using like all these mood boards I'm seeing you pull up right now. These are all in that mood board premium doc.
some of them yes, some of them no.
I mean,
Majority of them
but I'm
yes.
saying, like, looking at your screen right now, you've got Atoll, you've got Japanese movie poster, you've got C Note, you've got Bionic. Those
They're
are
all in
all
there.
those are all in there.
They're all in there. So I mean, like I find this to be super awesome, but some people might not. That's really where I like, the one, for example, that I think is just the most fun to me right now is these Japanese movie posters because I'm using like the same prompt basically, you know,
Yeah.
Japanese movie poster, close up of
Here, let me run
character,
that one too.
subject, whatever. And then it's just mood board bashing of putting everything together and seeing which most insanity that can come out of it. So you got a close up editorial photo of X, whatever you want it to be, layered composition with levels of depth and texture and blocks of text, and
Blocks of
then
text.
go wild from there.
And you're running a 3.4 Q2.
Stylized like
And
650 has been like the sweet spot for me there
yeah, I'll run a bunch of these too.
because you can see right like this is just what running it with just the one mood board code and you get like a decent outputs, but then there's also running it with like a bunch
Yeah.
and like getting like Charizard here.
Well, I think the Japanese mood board stuff's dope. I was playing around with that a while back, and I love how the I don't know, like if you're Japanese, you're probably like, those
This
symbols
sucks.
don't mean shit.
Yeah,
But for us, dude, like, the
it's the style.
Japanese characters it's just so, you know, not novel looking, but unfamiliar in a sense, right? So it's just kind of like it almost feels like icons or, like motifs that that just kind of feel cool to play with too.
Yeah, it's like art. Like it just looks good. Like I was just like obsessed with this Godzilla one the other day, as I couldn't stop prompting it, because then before that it was Darth Vader that I was obsessed with,
There you
trying
go.
to do this style, right? Like I was loving this stuff. I'm like, it just looks so different than what I'm used to getting. And again, it's just bashing everything together and sort of playing with. I think I had some of your profile codes in here too at one point, throwing Pikachu in here, see what we'll get.
Let me ask you this. For that
Yeah.
one's dope. What out of the ones that you play with, because you're mashing mood boards a lot. I really haven't since I guess the beginning of this. But which ones do you find of yours like work really well together?
So I've been liking the like cenote and this ethereal one together work very, very well. So it's like more of like a super gritty, dark, high contrasty with like a very like ethereal sort of soft. It's like blending two opposites together. Like that's how I like the opposites, right? Like I like putting my black and white one with my super colorful one, right? Like I like doing the juxtaposition there because you get some really cool stuff. Even like using SREF within them starts to get some really cool stuff as well. Like taking the images and like the ones you really like, putting those as SREF with the mood boards. But then again, like this is one of those where you have a bunch with Darth Vader, right? I'm just pumping a bunch of different ones into here to try and get some really like interesting results to see where it is. And that's why I keep saying they're all like parts of a whole, right? Like I like this bionic one for like the bionic one is super simple. Like I'll show you because it's very intricate in terms of detail, right? So it's very fun to play with. Let's just I'll keep this on 4. What's the other one that I have selected here? Bionic. I'll take this off and just say like, I don't know, like cinematic still, cybernetic anatomy of a snail. And this is like, again, we're running just like the most random prompt here, but I just love the intricate details of this one. And like, it's super like technological in that sense, like a lot of gears, a lot of like little things that go on something like this, like a very intricate sort of aesthetic within it. But there's way better examples.
Cybernetic anatomy of a snail, this man said.
It's just down that rabbit hole. And
this feels like Matrix vibey green.
Yeah. Matrixy, mixing it with a bunch of different other like random sort of images that have been put together. I was loving this one. It's like the dog, like kind of has the realistic dog sort of texture built into it. There's so many good ones, man. I mean, like what was The Office? Some of these were kind of like blowing my mind. Just like real crazy, intricate stuff. But did you run that stuff and see if it worked?
Yeah.
Or did you get some weird things?
I got some cool stuff here. Let's see. So this I just ran global. Then we ran a different mood board. Then we ran these together. Right. So this is just kind of showing you what happens to stacking versus running a mood board solo. Then I just kind of went and stacked one at a time. I like whenever it gets more than the global and like a mood board or two, it just quickly becomes like, well, am I going to remember to run this, this combination? And then when am I going to use it, and yada, yada, yada. But this is just to give you an example, right? Just mood board to mood board with that same prompt, what kind of deviation you can get, right?
That's a good run of it. I like seeing all that now.
Right, and this is just the global profile on one mood board. Same prompt.
Ooh, I like that one.
Which one?
Shape FX.
Shape FX.
That's fun.
It's in the mood board.
Nice.
Thing. Goo. I love this one. I might throw this one in there. I love the goo one, man. Goo's a killer. I love goo. Then kaleidoscope, motion. These are starting to get pretty cool. Then I'm starting to stack motion and kaleidoscope. Here's 3 different mood boards.
Oh, I got to get in there and
This is wild.
All of yours. Yeah.
Look at this one. That I don't know. That's nothing, and that's amazing at the same time.
I should probably not go down my DMT ones that I put in there.
Yeah.
Whoops.
And then here's the Japanese mover poster. So global profile, global plus kaleidoscope. Global Plus, Kaleidoscope, and Motion. I think that's a good stack in mine. Kaleidoscope and Motion plus your P, whoever's P, I would say that's a good one. I've run that enough to know that like you get some pretty cool results out of that. Like you can just see these are pretty awesome.
These are sick. Yeah, I like this. Goo. Nice.
Here's the goo.
That one in the face with her is really that.
Yeah.
You have a really interesting texture on that. I like that.
Then
What
you
else
got
here?
a little bit of a stack with goo and a couple others.
Interesting.
This is kind of cool. Love that.
I like that.
I don't know. Then this.
All right. See, dude, I don't know what it is about the text. I've just been loving it. Just having like that small text that's unreadable, you know?
Well, it kind of
like
has that typography design element, which is
Yeah.
just so, it's satisfying to look at when it's structured and formatted.
What are those little face components over there on the left? That one. I like that.
Yeah.
It's like a very unique look. Goo.
One other thing with this, maybe it's compelling to just keep re-rolling some of these things. That's definitely one way. But this also gets into find me something that I kind of like, and I'm going to very strong that mug so hard, right? Because it's like, I'm going to get some cool shit that comes out of that. That's like how you really can you expand this some more.
Hold on. Go back to that one specifically. That one, and just hit remix strong for me, and don't change anything, and just hit it again, and just hit enter on that. Bang.
Let's do it
I've been really
twice.
liking this on the stuff that's random, where there's no structured sort of outcome.
Yeah.
Hitting remix on top of something you already like tends to me get something like really cool. But like, look at these. These are so sick. Like all of them with like this interlocking, deconstructed parts.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, these are fun.
Yeah.
Now I have to go and run these actually individually instead of just bashing everything together.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
See what they look like.
Yeah, this stuff's so fun.
Goo. It's the name of the episode.
Love me some goo.
Like these are sick. Like that looks like I don't even know how to describe that. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another Kaleidoscope in Motion stack. This one with the Japanese movie poster.
Which is why I'm gonna have to make some content bashing our stuff together. Because if anyone hasn't noticed, I feel like we have a very Drew and I have a very contrasting sort of aesthetic where Drew's super, super like clean and beautiful, and mine is just so like rough, like raw in a sense. And it's like, this is so cool to mix together.
Yeah.
Because I've found that the mixing of both, like I ask Drew every once in a while for some of his personalization codes, because if I'm trying to use mine, I need something like very smooth and like soft and clean. Like my personalization codes just don't work because it's never going to do it for me. But I'm like, I know you have some in there that are for that purpose, in its own. But let's
find another thing we could run just randomly. Let's find some other like just interesting prompt. Maybe this is a good one. Let's run this.
All right.
So remember, this was from last episode, right?
Uh-huh.
When we went down that whole pathway of using the suggested prompt in edit, right? Versus the other describe options that currently exist. So maybe what I'll do for you is let me just copy and paste this into our chat. And then that way you can just grab it. If I can I do that? Boom. Let me drop this in here for you. And then we can run this. And again, we're going to get some crazy shit out of this, but let's just run
the same thing. Let's see.
Okay, let's stack this with a couple things. Let's go through, let's do Kaleidoscope. Let's do Kaleidoscope and Motion. Let's do just Motion. Let's do, gotta do Goo.
Gotta do Goo.
And I don't know if I have Goo in there, but I'll throw it in there in that premium mood board. Let's see.
Big fan of Goo.
Me too. And let's just do this one and then we'll run. Let's do one more. I hear Faye. She was like, yo, you didn't put me in this pod? What are y'all doing?
From the second floor.
Y'all thought you were going to get this pod in without me?
Dude, that's carrying. That's definitely carrying then. Let's see. Let me pump this one.
All right. I think I ran a bunch. I'll just kind of. And again, dude, I think we're at the point too where it's like I've got 40 or 50 of these things. How am I going to even, how do you even keep track of what we're running here? But this will be interesting. So this was that prompt. And just for you that are for those that are following along, but maybe having a tough time reading the actual prompt here, I'll just read it out loud. Also, feel free to pause this if you want to use it. A collage of 3 floating holographic rectangular shapes with iridescent edges. Each shape has an eye on it and is hovering above the headshot photo of an African-American man in streetwear. The background is a sky with clouds with a dreamy, minimalistic aesthetic and negative space. Collage art in the style of Larry Clower with a clean, high-res, high-detail, and hyper-realistic appearance resembling an album cover.
Nice.
By the way, love album cover.
Yeah, good one.
Like album covers always seem to work pretty well.
It's always been a good one.
Although I would say lately it does actually feel like it's taking data from actual covers now, whereas before it almost applied like a certain style to it.
It's like a vintage sort of like photography with like some art baked in sort of effect, right? Like, is that kind of, I'm thinking like Jimi Hendrix, like Are You Experienced sort of like look,
Yeah.
That one, I remember that one. Very, very tight. That aesthetic, I love that one. All right, let me see. Did you run your stuff? All right, I was sorry. I was in.
Yeah, I'm just dragging through it right now. and I just looked, and I didn't run it in the aspect ratio I wanted, and I didn't run it in the stylized value that I wanted. I would have run this probably again somewhere between 3 and 6. I probably would have changed this to a 3.4 or a 2.3. But
all right, so this is interesting.
Yeah,
the ones that I ran out looking pretty wild.
Okay, let me pass this over to you.
Yeah, let's see. I was just blindly pushing enter on changing these things, but let's see. So this is good. I like to see how different yours are, because this one is just global profile, right?
Yep.
So that one,
and that looks different but similar. To mine, right? Like
this one's sort of relatively in the same space, right?
Yep.
Because then we have this Atoll, which to me was more like this muted color palette with like a high saturation, sort of content, and also like this smoky blue and gray color scheme. It's like cool. Like I like this a lot. Having this 3-dimensional aspect of it here, dig that. This one is the movie poster, right? Now that starts to get crazy and extreme and add like a bunch of different effects to it, which kind of dig. This is wild. However, it conceptualized that. I don't know how it conceptualizes some of this stuff. This is a super broad mood board that has a lot of different aesthetics in it. So again, you get 4 different results here.
Now, I'm curious. Like I kind of mentioned this earlier, but like if I find like an image, so for me, out of this little group, personally, I really like that top left.
Top left?
Yeah, I'm looking for one image that I can then push further, right? So there's enough here that where it's like, okay, I would probably do a couple things. I'd probably very, very subtle it, very strong it a couple times. I would do, I like that remix idea. I always forget to do that, but, the goal, don't get lost in going too far in too many directions that you forget to go deep enough in one. And I think that's maybe the lesson I'm trying to convey here is, again, it's all for fun, but 2, like dig into things that you really like, push it, because that's how you go from the good to the great.
So this is that negative one I'm talking about. I just love that it like grabs these sort of exposure effects and like it just has like a really cool tone to it. That's why I said it's like a good mixing one to like put in there. I do have a collage mood board, which is great for collages.
Collage on collage.
That's right. This one, that eye, super, super important. Now this is the cenote where it's going to be way more dark and mysterious and like, gritty and textured. That's nuts.
Deep blacks. Yeah.
Deep blacks, deep blues, deep greens. This one, I guess when you go into the bionic, we get way...
That one's cool. Super cool. Yeah.
Getting way weird here. This is it's that like cosmic one with the super gritty textures.
Is the cosmic one, is that the one with the black and white, gray, and then you've got the splash of neon in there? Yeah.
Yeah. This is like it's like 90s Miami color scheme right here.
Yeah.
Do you remember the restaurant Miami Grill? Was that a thing by you guys?
Don't remember that being a thing.
Looked like something out of like 1980s Miami. But So again, super fun, right? Like this was the remix strong on some of this stuff. Like just weird, intricate.
Hey, and you know what? If you're testing mood boards too, maybe an interesting thing to try as well, whether you're doing this yourself or you're using ours or whatever it is, type in an empty character, like a period or a slash, and just run it.
Yeah.
Right? And like just dig into what that default is going to be. And that might give you a better sense of what to expect too. I usually do that along with, I try to think of the things that I'm going to create most often, which could be maybe photorealism based. So maybe I'll throw in something very simple like editorial photography, lifestyle photography, something like that, and just kind of see where it takes me. Also the empty character stuff. Also do whatever the fuck you want, Going back to the emoji thing, when I was testing style code, just running the skull emoji, just run some shit. I still think the emoji piece, I don't think a lot of people run that stuff, but there's a lot of emojis out there. I mean, we could do a whole series, we could do a whole thing just running emojis with every single mood board we got.
I was running it with the fairy emoji the other day, which was funny. I was getting like all mushrooms.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know why it equated. Like,
that's wild.
What is it, like Fern Gully, trained on stuff like that? I was like, why am I running a fairy and it's coming up with mushrooms all the time? And I think I ran the hands up emoji and the fairy together, and that was it. And I was like, let's see what goes on here.
And your survey data. Let's not forget that.
My survey data. I get some really weird stuff, guys. Like, as you can see, that's the PG stuff.
Well,
not the
like with the mood boards, I don't know, man. Is there anything else that we haven't covered on mood boards, up until this point? Like I know, like you've been going harder this week on mood boards. Like between last pod and this, any new discoveries there, or kind of like just continued iteration based on what we talked about last time? Because I feel like we went really deep. I just don't know if you unlocked anything in the meantime.
I think it's just the what I said earlier in the podcast was like creating these way smaller mood boards, like something that's doesn't have to be 100 images, something that's maybe like 5 images, but for a specific use, like that film negative one. Like to me, that's my favorite little stackable piece now. So if you're thinking in terms of that, like Drew's goo, it's a fun one, probably very stackable with other ones.
I'm just textures, run the textures. Like you could, like, I'm just thinking Photoshop. You could run, you could have a mood board just with grunge textures.
Yeah.
And then that could be a stack.
Very smart.
Right? Like, or
smooth textures.
film grain.
Yeah.
Stack that.
Yeah. This all keeps coming back to that point of like text prompting still important, but also like it's like you're creating your own tokens now.
Yeah.
Like you're creating your own tokens with a mood board.
There you go. There you go. I think that's a really good point. Also, I think where AI is at, and this is the case, I think, even for LLMs, it's just like, that the more context, the more you think and the more energy you put into the input, the better the output. The problem is it's so labor intensive to do the typing, and you'll get to a point where you're just like, oh, fuck, I just want to send it. I just want to send it. And so as AI develops, the speaking part of it, now there's got to be a modality that feels easier to execute on while matching the quality, the expectation of the result. And so whether that's speech or we get to this crazy place in life where it's telepathy or some other shit, but like, I feel like typing
deep
out,
hours.
You know what I mean? Like the typing out thing is going to go away like in the next bit, or maybe even just how we type, because it's just such a energy driven process. And I know that sounds like kind of like heady, but like it really is. When you think about it, it's like, yeah, if I want LLM to put together a strategy for me on X, to get a good strategy, I need to really think about this, right? Yeah. I need, this is several prompts, or it's like really me providing the most context possible. And the same is true with prompting in some ways. Like
you need to know how to develop a strategy. Like you need to know how to develop a strategy to tell it to develop a strategy. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just, it'll be interesting to see how the text prompting to image generation, video generation thing continues to develop versus shortcuts within that process of references, style codes, mood boards, some of these things that give it more information without requiring more energy and time on our output,
I would think it's perfectly put, because you see what happened in the sort of the evolution of Midjourney, right? Where it was just like you had to go that far on text prompting to either get consistency or, mimic a style or a character or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And then they started adding these little features. And it's the same thing you start to see on the video side too, where it's like, going back to the stuff like that I'm doing now with Google VO2. It's like I have to like write every single little piece out of it. I don't hate doing that. It's just like it's really conscious. You're really trying to break it all out to make sure that it's all in there. But again, that's probably going to change with video as soon as I saw Pika. What was it? Pika today added another thing, like where you add you can add yourself or an ingredient into the mix, not just like ingredients, but like really, here's a video, add this thing in there to it now. So it's like a little like a remix feature almost. You're starting to see it with Kling. Kling is basically now, I feel like, starting to think in terms of how Midjourney's user experience is, like with their ingredients feature. And you can now just like, here's a character, here's an environment, here's like an object, like mash the whole idea together.
Yeah.
Like mash the aesthetics and the idea, which to me is way cooler than trying to like write out this entire 16 line prompt to get all that stuff in there. I like writing the prompts, don't get me wrong, but it's at some point I just want to
but I mean we're still at the the toddler kid age of how this is going to end up playing out. Like this is going to be an archaic version of whatever happens. I mean, it's going to continue to evolve and presumably get more efficient. And so it'll be interesting to see. Like I keep going back to that idea of these AI image gen tools. Why we're still, there needs to be an option to create a series of images within a certain concept for storytelling purposes. Meaning, why do I have to create one single image at a time? Can I give an idea based on some sort of story or an idea, and it gives me 3 connected images where those 3 images together have cohesiveness and tell a story? Like, can we do that? Like, who's thinking about that? Because that to me gets you there faster. Similar to like what Midjourney's editor did, where it was like, dude, we're taking out 5 steps of the process of having to pan and zoom and do.
I think he's developed a product right there. Might have to go on, Chat GPT or Claude later to see if that can be built with a, right as an API into the mix.
We're almost getting there, man. Where I think we'll just create some shit. But all that like being said, let's maybe just jump in quickly to office hours. And there's not a lot, I don't think, to update you guys on versus what we talked about last week, because we did cover it. The latest update, still, I think V7, I would expect end of month, maybe even into March, depending on if we see any other curveballs. But like 3 weeks away would be my guess, 3-4 weeks. But the video stuff, right? So going back to your point about VO, being on office hours, I know you caught this too because we were chatting beforehand, but it seemed like David originally was thinking 2026, year of the video. And he made a great point about how, yes, you can do video now, but it's labor intensive. It's not fun. It's not all the way passable for, certain use cases, the yada, yada, yada. We all knew video was going to move fast. It's continued to move fast in 2025. Can we break the physics mold of like getting natural looking movements together, right? Like that's probably one of the last frontiers that I would say exist on that front. And then you and I were just talking about VO, and you sent me some stuff that you put together, and I saw something that was one of those moments where it was like, yeah, haven't seen that before. Haven't seen that yet, And so with that said, like David brought that up on the office hours too. He used VO as an example. He's just like, look, like I saw some shit there, and I think I've changed my mind. I think we're going to, it's going to be this year, right? Where we're going to see that sort of like breaking of the dam with video, and specifically as it relates to like the photorealism physics movement.
So it's definitely gonna happen. I don't know what Midjourney is gonna do about it. I don't know if they even have to do anything about it, honestly. Like did I read? I was reading someone on X who wrote a thread that I was like, there's internal sort of strife.
Yes. Yeah,
in
that
sort
was
of
on the call.
inside of Midjourney.
That was on the office hours. Yeah.
Okay, where it's like,
Yeah.
do we just focus on images? Or do we go to video? You know, like the thing is, I don't need video from Midjourney. I want to try it. I want to use it. If they're the only ones that can figure out how to do it in a way like them, where they're stylized and chaos, like the type of parameters that controls that you can't do with other ones. Like I would love like a very subtle on a video or a very strong. You know, like
yes.
I'm thinking about all the Midjourney controls in comparison to video.
Bro,
SREF.
Not to take us off track.
Like
I was messing around with Luma, and Luma's got some cool stuff with video too, but still no re-roll. Why?
I think it's somewhere. Someone was showing me the other day, and I was like, the fact that I have to look this hard for it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Because
I literally was just auditing every button and icon I could find. And I'm like, dude, there's no re-roll here. What are we doing? I got to copy and paste this and then put 2 keyframes in, like every single time.
It's just simple things, guys. Like, don't need a lot.
That's just like offshoot little tangent. But I think you're right. Like, I wonder too. I wonder, we're still at that point where some of these companies really have to define the path forward for themselves and what they're going to be. We talked about that with Kriya. They've done that. You kind of just mentioned like Kling is starting to maybe show some of that. Midjourney's shown kind of that they've been unique and thinking things differently for a long time. But yeah, if you're Midjourney, what do? You're
cherry pick. Like, I don't know if you're going to develop it, which it sounds like they're going to partner, which I don't know how that works, or I don't
either. I don't
potentially dream up how that looks.
Yeah.
But it's like I would cherry pick stuff. Like the thing that I love about Sora is either one like clipping in between like a clip, like if you have like a 10-second clip and seconds 2 to 4 suck, like you can just go regenerate that piece. I like that. Like that's nice.
Yeah.
The remix feature, like change this. Great. That's awesome. Kling, I like elements now. I also like how coherent it is. Runway, I like certain things there. It's like you have all these ideas. They're all out there because everyone's doing it differently. The way that people are doing camera control is very different on every platform. Like everyone, Kling and Luma do it, or Minimax and Luma do it different than Kling and Runway, right? And then there's all these sort of like intricacies with each tool and like these little features that they have. It doesn't feel like anyone's really defined a niche in terms of what they want to be outside of Pika, I think. Like Pika's just I feel like Pika's just deciding they want to be like the social media tool. Like they want to be that. Sora obviously don't know what the hell they're trying to do. Doesn't make any sense. Like Runway to me is like a production team tool. They have a lot of different features in there for editors, and people that are in like high-end production. You can see it the way they've built it, and the video editors in there and things like that, and for creators, right? Kling, I don't know. They just keep adding features, and it's like you can use the virtual try-on and the elements. It's just like maybe they're trying to just be the all-in-one tool. And then you have, Minimax, just a little engine that's just hilarious in terms of its output, which is either really good, really odd, really funny, or just, super, super creative. So who knows where they all sort of go. And then you have Kriya, who links to all of them, and you can use it.
Yeah. Just pay us and we'll let you have all of them.
Did you see what they did recently with their chat feature? I think they just released it today. Again, I commented on their post the other day about something. I was like, you guys just get it. It's awesome. They basically just took the DALL-E 3 sort of model like within ChatGPT and just flipped it on its head, where it's like, here, like I like let's create an image for this. You're chatting with it instead of like prompting.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I like this. Change it. You paste an image, put it to this style. Cool. Oh, okay. Now change the clothes to this. Like you can. It's like interactive that way. It's such a smarter way, I think, of getting new people on a platform. Like, oh, this is way more user friendly to me instead of having to come up with 75 words.
Yeah,
and this prompt.
And then also how much education are you going to do with the tool itself? There, like you're going to continue to unlock all these things. I mean, you and I have put together whole courses and guides on Midjourney, and like I'm sure you think about this too, but it's like I can think of a dozen ideas that aren't in there that I could throw in there, and it's just like, well, I got to cut it off somewhere. What are we doing?
Yeah.
If you're these companies, like, how do you educate somebody on all this stuff? At some point, it just becomes so much. It becomes so much to do, and like we always go back to that example of like Midjourney feeling like a Photoshop. They don't make everything the easiest from a UX standpoint, and I'm okay with that because we've been there.
Yeah.
But if you're not, like, again, going back to maybe how we started this call, I'm just so surprised at some of the things that have been introduced a while back that still aren't known. Like I was here, another example, just going into editor and the whole idea of like removing distractions, but more or less changing things, changing the clothes. I've got a picture of me. I want to change this to a black t-shirt instead of a, off-white sweater. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, you could go down that avenue of, you've got a nice face that you like, a nice composition that you like, just changing the clothes, right? Like, there's a lot of use cases for that. No one, but no one's talking about it anymore. So after time, all this kind of like depreciates.
Yeah.
In terms of like people's, I guess, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like it just fades, which is a shame. And so I guess like when these companies are so focused on feature, ship, how do you maintain that level of foundational knowledge and get people to adopt this product the right way to fully be able to succeed with it, which at the end of the day, from a business standpoint, you want people to feel like they're successful with this tool. That's going to give you the stickiness of a customer. Maybe this is just how you and I think, because we've been in that like business world too, but that's got to be on the radar as well. You have to be thinking about that if you're one of these businesses, is how do we keep bringing people along? And in a lot of ways, they've just been relying on the creators to do that. That's not a centralized place for it. So how do you continue to...
Well, the thing with something like Midjourney, right, is you type in, if you're a beginner, regardless, the first time you go into the prompt bar and type in dog, you're going to get something good. Like it might not be consistent or whatever. You type it in, it's just going to look good. And you're like, that's cool. Because that might not happen on Flux or anything. It might come out like a saturated AI looking DALL-E 3 picture. And you're like, oh, that's not a wow factor. So, I've always found that to be like, can you get someone interested quickly? Because the more you get them, like the same thing with us. Like with V4, everything just looked cool to begin with. So there wasn't much expectation there because we weren't seeing everything else that everyone was doing. It was like, oh, let's just explore. And then you keep going, like, oh, I can get better at this. Can I do this? Can I do this? And like the whole thing starts to build and you're addicted. But now I think everyone's seen so much ridiculous artwork. If you're new, you're coming on, you're like, you type in a prompt and it doesn't look that way. It's very easy to be like, nah.
Yes. Yeah.
I see it on the video generators all the time. Like I saw a post the other day, someone was complaining that, this is hilarious that this stuff, they tried to do gymnastics or something, or like Olympic sports.
Yeah.
I'm like, number one, there's a reason why there's only like 10 people in the world that can do that in general physically, because it's really hard. So it's hard for these AI generators to do anything sports related because no two bodies move the same in that way. You pick the hardest thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a reflection on what the tools can or can't do right now. That's the hardest thing there is, like at this moment. Personally, in my experience, sports, I don't think anyone, Veo too, really bad with basketball. Like still can't get it.
Yeah. Basketball
like,
and soccer, gymnastics, and
it's impossible to train.
Yeah, it's gonna be real hard.
Yeah. You can't replicate it because there's no two plays that are exactly the same. No motion is exactly the same. Everyone's body shapes are different,
and that's why hands are so hard.
Yeah,
hands do really weird things, and when you get photos of hands, you're not getting the same photo of a hand, right?
Yeah.
Like you're getting a hand in a 360. You're getting a hand up here, there, down low, right in from the side, like every camera angle you can imagine, and no two hands look alike. And also, by the way, hands move, right? So it's just a hard thing to crack. And so people are, hand gonna get hands are pretty damn good already. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually surprised hands have been that good for as long as they've been.
Yeah.
Like we could be talking about hands still right now, and then these models would be pretty much unusable in some ways.
I like to tell people to go, if you have complaints about the hands, try to go draw one. Go try to draw a hand or some eyes. It's hard.
That's so hard. Like I remember when I was on a drawing kick for a while.
Yeah.
And there's also the idea too that your mind has a hard time interpreting what a right hand, like what a correct hand should look like.
It's impossible
because it's so dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And
complex.
And it's not symmetrical, right? Like there are just so many variables at play there. But yeah, absolutely.
That, and then the other thing too with that is like, I don't understand sort of like this whole mindset of it sucks right now. It's like, I still will never understand that. It's like, yeah, sure. Then don't learn it. You know what I mean? It's your choice. Just don't complain about it when it gets good. You know, like, like
well, and I think
that's it.
what creators are really good at is just like trying to push the boundaries too. Like
Mm.
you're always trying to do something new and different. There are plenty of low hanging fruit use cases that could be put into effect immediately right now. But those aren't sexy to keep posting about over and over again. People are trying to share the linear progression of what these tools are capable of.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you might see some things depending on who it is too, right? Where you're just like, but follow the right people, you'll see some cool shit.
Yeah. That's what, it's like, I saw a bunch of comments on that post too that were just like, I can tell you don't use these tools at all because
Right.
you don't know that that's even an option, right? Like we know because we try, and I've tried fly fishing, which I did a video on, which that's something that no AI tool has been able to do because the physics is really complex in terms of interaction between person, object, physical, like it's a very fluid sort of physical motion to cast a fly rod. And then you also have the elemental effects of someone standing inside a body of water. So it's a lot of things going on.
Yep.
Now, like to get that even close and to look, it's such a step above any other, VEO or VEO, whatever the hell it's called, in over the other tools. Not saying the other tools are bad, just in this specific use case for something that's very complex was like impressive. But then again, anyone who's going to be like, yeah, it's just like ripped off photo or images from the internet or video from the internet. I'm like, well, type in fly fishing, hit enter, and watch how awful it is in terms of the generation. I had to go in there and prompt like I was thinking in my head of how my body would move, like how it would, my arms snapping at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock in terms of like if it was on a clock. Like the way
We
the
brought
line,
that up before too. It's
yeah,
like when you get down into the motion or physics part of movements, you need to think mechanically about how you describe them.
yeah, like the tension of the line pulling back against the rod, creating a curve. Like I know that because I've made 100,000 casts before in my life. Like I know that you have to have tension on the rod physically for to snap it and whip it back forward. Someone who's never done that before is not going to be able to do that prompt. They're not going to like comprehend that. ChatGPT is not going to tell them that.
Yep.
But like Google interpreted it because it's
Yep.
probably been trained in a certain way to interpret certain things like that. But
I'm also looking forward to this, Midjourney moving the camera thing, dude.
Yeah.
We've been talking
Gotta
about
do
that forever, but that is going to probably be the most exciting thing that's happened in a long time whenever that happens too.
I'm more excited for that, I think, than video, maybe. Are you?
You know what? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Also, I was going to ask you, we should come back to ChatGPT, LLM integration.
Some point, yeah.
Into the creative workflow again. I think we hit on a lot, but it's been some time. I know I've unlocked a few different ways since then. I'm sure you have. We're using this stuff every day.
Yeah.
So I would expect that to be the case. But like, perfect example, right? I've been doing a lot more. Well, I've done a couple like more of these photos with the priests and nuns, right? Like putting that into focus. But like, I'm also taking this type of stuff into, and this is like I'm halfway through this photo, but like I'll take this as a screenshot, put that into ChatGPT. This is my theme, right? How can I make this even more ridiculous? And then like also take advantage of design principles and with photography, effects, textures, blah, blah, blah. What recommendations would you have? Okay, well, if I don't know how to do that in Photoshop, give me the step-by-step instructions on how I do it in Photoshop. I'm not an expert at Photoshop. I'm dangerous with Photoshop. I don't know all the shit. I'm not an advanced user in Photoshop. So I'll hear something and I'll be like, okay, well, give me the step-by-step.
I have it teach me all the time.
Troubleshooting and directions and, instructions and those things have been great for me lately. I don't think that was something I was using LLMs a lot for in the first year that I was using them, but like I would say that's probably 50% of what I'm doing now is the how-to stuff, right?
Yeah,
like
totally.
So, like I just bring that up as like a nice little throw in here of like different ways you can think about using creative elements. I really wish it could start to interpret the video stuff now. Like if it could look at a clip, right?
And just sort of like, okay.
or, you know, give you the transcript stuff. Like, what are we doing? That should already be possible by now. I mean, you can do it with the plugins, but come on. Also, yeah, I mean, it's just these are the cool things that I think make a ton of sense to think about. Also, in terms of your creative workflow and process, like I always use an LLM in some manner. I don't think I was at the beginning. Now it's just, you know, like there are just so many reasons to do it. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it has the reasoning too now. Like O3 Mini is pretty freaking cool now that I've tried that. I still love Claude. I still love Perplexity, but Perplexity is like my learning tutorial. Like I love it because...
Do you pay for that?
Oh yeah, I bought the
okay,
year.
I don't have
I got
that.
the year during Black Friday because it was a sick deal. It was like,
what's the benefit of paying
$200
versus not paying?
Um,
What do you do? What does it give you? I don't
even remember, but
because I just use Perplexity for the basic search. I don't use it for anything else. I like it. I just have never spent the time understanding the full offering for Perplexity, but like the search part of it's great.
I forget what I paid for in terms of the year because it was, you can from a writing standpoint, if you want to write basically utilizing all the open source models you can write with, so you can choose which one, in terms of like your answer. So you can use Llama, you can use Claude, you can use ChatGPT, you can use whatever. I basically probably don't use it at the level that I should for paying for it for the year, but I just, whenever I see a Black Friday deal, I'm a sucker. And especially if it's like 40% off for the year, I'm like, well, I'm already paying for it. So I might as well. But I love that thing's like my tutorial space because it also, I love, combines everything, but then you also have the links out to each individual video that it's pulling from. So then I can like, oh, okay, I kind of see what it's saying, but I need to see it. And then it takes me right to, YouTube. Great. Okay, this is where it is. And it has it like earmarked in the video. So it takes you right to the spot, which I just love simple things like that.
Okay. That's a gripe I have currently. ChatGPT. Yeah. You can use the search bar to find old topics or chats by keyword. Great. It'll bring me to the thread. The problem is my threads will be so long and it doesn't it doesn't anchor it. Yeah. So you're like, okay, now I got to control F to find this, like within it. It's just kind of a mess, but they need to.
Can Operator do that for you?
One. I don't know because I'm not paying that.
But is that only on Plus or Premium or whatever the hell the top plan
is? Whatever the top one is. I can't remember if it's Pro or Plus or what, but
whatever. They screwed that up with Sora. I bet you don't see anything really about Sora like at this point. It's just kind of like game. And
I was going to say, do you want to tease anybody that we might potentially have on in the future here? I think what we're going to try to do is we've got a couple weeks here until V7. Yeah. We want to definitely do a deep dive there. But prior to that, I'm expecting maybe some slower things. We've gone really hard on Moodboards. So I think what we're going to do is possibly bring on some guests and then get some other perspectives in here, tell some different stories, get into, a wider range of topics. Anything we can share? Do we have anything lined up?
Don't have anyone specifically locked in yet. Talking to some people from 11 Labs. So maybe you might have someone, if you guys aren't familiar with 11 Labs, the sound generation, voice generator tool. Super, super awesome, really cool team. They've been interested in coming on, talking shop a little bit. Maybe some people from the Curious Refuge team trying to come on here. We love what they do. They do outstanding work, and they were really early in on a lot of this stuff. So, there's a lot. We have a lot of conversations. The community is awesome. So once people come on here, we've had some great episodes with, the guests in the past. Everyone sort of like vouches that it's like just a fun time to come on here. Hopefully if you guys have anyone else you're interested in too, let us know.
Yeah, there you go.
If let us know. Specific. Because we have a lot of people, just sort of like we get lazy in terms of scheduling them. It's like, sometimes it's hard.
If this were like our job, I feel like we would have so much. We would just go so hard on this. This is like, guys, honestly, thanks for sticking with us. I mean, we try to provide as much value as we can here. The reality is we've both got so much going on. So unfortunately, this falls down the priority line. But that said, I'm excited about what we're going to continue to bring into this. Because once we start talking V7, once we start talking video, once we start talking 3D, I mean, we're going to open the floodgates again in terms of the possibilities, how to use these things, the features, blah, 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 blah. So,
do some live sessions probably for Evan at that point, or
I think so.
A little bit more excitement around it because, like I said last week, I think Drew and I are probably going to be like, meh, when it's released, and give us 2 weeks, and then we'll be like, damn, this is sick. We're
we'll figure
hypocrites
out
like
how to manipulate it
that.
properly.
Yeah.
100%.
But is that
Yeah, man. I
wrap
think
it
that's
up?
it. Like
All right.
before I give you the I'll let you do the honors. I would just say, guys, we'll drop. Pay attention to social links for the mood board stuff. I'll probably drop it on X and LinkedIn, although I'm not sure when. I haven't been posting as much often. I maybe even keep a closer watch on Rory's stuff. But we'll have that. We'll put that out in the wild this coming week for you guys, and would love to get your guys' feedback on it. We're down to continue to make changes with that. I think one of the things that we talked about is continuing to add some of those mood boards. And so if this is something that you guys want to grab, like, we'll continue to put value in there even after the fact.
Yeah. I'm going to keep pumping those because it's too much fun. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I can't
There
stop.
You go. Well, man, take the wheel.
As always, as is tradition.
Yeah.
Like,
it is.
subscribe. That's it. Three
That's
things.
all.
Two
That's
things.
all.
Maybe comment. Maybe tell your friend, tell your mom, tell your dad, whatever.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yep.
Keep going.
Let's keep going. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for joining us.
See ya.